237 is a Jumperscape audio production. You're a long way from home, stranger. But you are not alone. Join us in room 237.
Hello and welcome once again to room 237. Another exciting day today. Last week we covered the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and today we are tackling yet another classic, and that would be
Psycho.
Once again, it's your hosts James and
Ashton.
And we're excited to start this journey, keep it going, keep it fresh. But before we get into today's movie, of course, I gotta plug and implore you to join our Discord at discord.gg/Jumperscape and maybe check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Jumperscape. So I would be implored to first give a shout out to all of our Patreon members. We have, of course, at our poet tier, Dark Salad 42, and our fabulous tier, Dick Hammerbush, It's Default, Lactating Gator, Cool Blaze in our Wordsmith tier, Kyle Hooley, Last Dawn Reactions, Mo Maggot Yallin, Spartan Habuko G156, Addy, Connor Clark, Dylan. I'm just reading all of them, not even going through the tiers anymore because you're all equal to me. Garrus Vicarian, Lactating Milk MT, LPU Soldier, Mass the Merc, Potassium Lactate, Lactation of Mercy, Tom Church, Vermin, Brennan Pfeiffer, Eliza, J. O'Malley, Keith Montuba, Ossiodius T, Damian Groth, Dragon Eye, Drew Ledbetter, Jacob Adium, Pity 104, Tyler Neal, Wraith. I don't even know how to pronounce this one. X3 the N, Keegan, and of course, my favorite, Ungoy Food Nipple. So, we watched a movie.
We did watch a movie.
And we have a guest, very special guest.
We do have a guest.
Hi.
It's Austin.
It's me.
It is Austin.
It's me.
Anyone coming over from the library, you of course know Austin. He hosts that show.
It's me.
He hosts that show.
It's the McMahon of Jumperscape. How you doing?
Well, Austin McMahon, we are happy to have you here today.
Absolutely.
It's a big day.
I'm so happy to be here. I've never sat in this chair in my life.
It's a new chair for you.
We're all friends here.
We're all friends here.
We like to have fun here.
Oh, Shane.
How'd he get here?
Austin really wanted to watch this movie.
It's very much so, yes.
And I was really scared to host a podcast for the first time. So this is actually Twist, the first episode
It's
of Room 237.
Dude, there's already a twist in the first two episodes
Yes.
of 237.
Jeez.
Well, speaking of twists, this is a movie that's full of twists.
Oh,
True.
So many.
It's a classic. Alfred Hitchcock, 1960. When making the list of movies that we wanted to cover, this was definitely way up there. Just because it is very influential. It is extremely important.
Very important. And something I still hadn't seen until today.
And that's a travesty, but we're fixing it.
No,
Because that's the
That's me too.
whole goal of this, is that you get to come along with us and enjoy these movies in real time.
Mhm.
Because even though I am the resident horror expert at the table, we're still going to get to movies that I haven't seen. So that's going to be fun.
And I'll always be oblivious.
But before we kind of get into plot summary, would you guys like to divulge how much you knew going in? Because this is a movie that your experience vastly differs if you don't know the twist.
Yeah. So for me, I had an English teacher in high school. She taught a film course. So of course she was obsessed with Alfred Hitchcock. And so, yeah, I knew about the twist. I knew what the twist was. in fact, I didn't know that the twist was so deeply buried. Like, oh my God, that was crazy. But I knew that, and I knew random film facts about the movie. And I also, having not seen it before, had started watching the Bates Motel series with the autistic doctor guy in it.
I didn't even know that show was a thing.
I just call him Charlie Bucket because that's what I remember him as.
But
Bucket.
I am a surgeon. Taking over my life.
That guy.
Yeah.
He's the good doctor.
I am a sturgeon. I am estrogen.
It's called The Good Doctor. It's not called the autistic doctor. But it is about a doctor with autism.
And he's great.
And he is great.
He is great.
Everyone makes fun of him for that one scene, but it's like, I mean, how could you not?
I mean, it's
really funny.
it's a very accurate depiction, I would say, most certainly.
For me, it's just Dr. Hahn's face throughout the entire thing. He's just, wow.
What, you've never seen an autistic meltdown, Dr. Hahn?
Now, for me, I knew significantly less because all I know about Psycho similarly had class on it, but it was instead the film editing of it because that's me. So I was mind blown by some of the ways that the camera moves because it didn't seem like it was possible for the time. But of course, Hitchcock did it because Hitchcock is the way that he is.
God.
I was kind of shocked that the one thing that I did know, aside from the stairway scene, but the only reason why I knew about the stairway scene was because of Psych, the show, because they did a whole episode referencing Psycho by having a serial killer that would mimic famous horror films, which was great. The only other thing that I knew about it, which I could have swore was hey, did you know that when Aragorn kicks this helmet, his toe breaks and that's a real scream? I thought it was that sort of fact. The fact that chocolate syrup is the blood. Yeah. Like, I could have swore that was just like
I
everyone
thought that was
knew
just
that.
Common knowledge.
And fun fact, I'm the only one who didn't know that.
Of all people.
And you got the fact that the toilet flushing was one of the big like deals about that movie. It was like they weren't supposed to do that. That was like horrendous to have a toilet flushing. And I made a joke about it earlier and you were like, yeah, I know what that means. I had a feeling you didn't.
I'm being exposed. I mean, to be fair, moving on. You know, just in case you haven't seen it, which you really should, if you've not seen this movie, it is a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, watch it.
You know, it like I wouldn't even call it dated. Like,
No.
yeah,
No.
It's way ahead of its time. Even, I mean, it's definitely one of the progenitors of like modern horror. Coming out in 1960. I mean, it's not something you'd throw in like the slasher genre, but you can definitely see where the slasher genre got its influence from Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a murder mystery-esque kind of thriller. But for the time, I could see why it is tense. It is a tense
so
movie.
tense. I was like tearing my skin off like for the first half of that movie. I was so anxious.
For me, it's the last quarter.
Oh.
Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like I'm sitting there the whole time knowing what happens and knowing the ending, and I'm like, don't go in that house. But just kind of to give a brief summary before we get a little bit more in depth. So it's starring Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates and
I love Perkins.
Janet Leigh as Marion Crane, among other cast members. I don't want to get too much into the summary because I'm going to put a quick spoiler warning for the rest of the show going forward, because I really feel like if you somehow don't know how this movie goes, you just should take advantage of that and watch it blind.
Yeah.
Pause, watch the movie, and then come right back.
Yes.
And discuss it with us.
Because I can confirm, even through a busted ass Blu-ray disc, I was having a great time.
We'll get there.
But no, it was fantastic. I mean, for real, the movie itself, I mean, I was caught off guard multiple times. I think they'll remember at one point I was just I decided to step out for a second, make myself a Sammy. And I heard some dialogue that was so astonishing that we'll get to later that I had to like peek back in and I verbally was like, huh?
Oh, man. But the beginning of this movie, in a weird cosmic sort of way, is like a prequel to Halloween. Because you have Janet Leigh and you have this man whose character's name is Sam Loomis, which is obviously the inspiration for Dr. Sam Loomis. And, you know, they're sitting here and they're, you know, talking about life, talking about getting married. He has an ex-wife and they're talking about licking stamps on the alimony papers together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's real cute. It's real fun. And you see kind of the possible motivations behind what Marion Crane does.
Mhm.
Because what ends up happening is she's at her job. She's a secretary and she's given the task of, hey, take this $40,000, which in the 50s, I mean, it came out in 1960, but yeah, is what, $1 bajillion? That's a lot of money. And deposit it for me. Thank you. Here, it's in this envelope.
And by the way, I'm going to take a step back real quick. So the like opening credits to this movie are so it like caught me off guard. They're so sci-fi looking. They're like glitchy and sci-fi.
It's odd.
It's really weird. And in my notes I wrote the 60s are alive and well. It's so it's the most 60s. And it opens this takes place in Phoenix, Arizona. It lets us know exactly that it is Friday, December 11th. And it says it was like 1:30ish or something.
Which is an odd choice because it's not really relevant to the movie at all.
It gives us the exact time and date. It's not relevant.
It wants you to
whatsoever.
remember where you were when that day happened.
I guess so.
No questions asked.
But the opening credits, they're almost like original first season Doctor Who-esque. That's what they kind of reminded me of.
That's why I was sitting there like, did people know? Did people know they were about to watch a horror movie? Because I would have thought aliens were coming. Like,
I mean, it's called Psycho.
And it is directed by Hitchcock.
Okay, fair. But, all right, okay. They knew they were watching a horror movie, but they probably thought aliens were coming. Because I would think aliens were coming.
Because the thing is, I think the way that they were that he wanted with the title there, he might have wanted to have like broken text to signify a broken person. Hitchcock is always weird like that. He's always reflecting everything he does back into the story.
I feel like that was probably the intention, but the technology at the time just kind of made it look sci-fi, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdly, like kind of the music during the opening credits kind of gave that vibe too.
Yes. Yeah. That's the other note I have written here is that the soundtrack is bopping. It's so good. I'm like,
it is amazing.
Dancing.
I caught myself doing hip hop chants to it at one point.
I mean, it's probably like the oldest example of a horror soundtrack that I would call iconic.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sure I'm going to get lambasted by some guy who just loves the Universal Monster movie soundtracks. But when I think of like horror soundtracks and where like they started to really like become themes, you know, things you hear around Halloween, Psycho.
Well, yes and no, because I feel like the actual like theme of this isn't the thing I hear all the time. It's just the big.
Oh no, it's the theme. I'm talking about, you know, the car ride, the
yeah.
Like I hear that everywhere during Halloween.
Oh really?
And now that you hear it, I'm sure you'll hear it more. Oh yeah, because that's a cliche on its own. But back to the plot.
Yeah.
The plot. Yeah, she has the genius idea of stealing this money.
Hell yeah.
And you can tell she's not a criminal because she's really bad at it from here on out.
Really bad at it.
She immediately gets herself a 5-star wanted level. Like this is GTA.
It does not know how to deal with it.
You know, she decides to sleep on the side of the road in the car, and this cop, who is the scariest cop I've ever seen in my entire life, just knocks on the door and just starts asking her pretty normal cop questions. Like they frame it in a way that you kind of feel what she's feeling. Like this is not the most friendly face.
Everyone knows what it's like to get pulled over by an officer by this point.
Yeah. So her fumbling on words and looking suspicious is understandable.
Yeah.
But it's genuinely like mind-boggling that he let her leave that easily. Obviously, he had nothing, but she was acting so.
Well, he did
suspicious.
follow her.
He did follow her.
He was
for a long time.
He was probably letting her
time.
think that she was safe, so she would make more mistakes, which of course she did.
Yeah, so most of my notes at this point are like, girl, you need to calm down. He doesn't know you've done anything. Just like stop acting like this. But there was something I want to say. Oh, it says "Hell Yeah" soundtrack again. She's driving around the road and this cop is following her. And I know old movies, like they weren't driving a car like for real. Obviously, I don't know that this lady knew how to drive a car in her life, because she turned the wheel all the way around on a straight road.
It's just how nervous she was.
Yeah.
You ever swerve into traffic just because the cop's following you?
No, I straight up swerve off the road. And then I'll right off the road into the ditch.
Right. Then
But anytime she's driving is when the soundtrack becomes a banger, because that's when it's just like the strings are going hard.
So hard.
And it's making you feel like the anxiety that she's probably feeling while she's driving. And it all kind of, my favorite, most underrated part of this movie is when she goes to that used car dealership and she just continues to be extremely suspicious. And it's also good to know that used car salesmen have not changed since 1960, because this guy just comes out. He's like, first customer of the day is always trouble. And like trying to do his shtick. And she's like, I need to trade a car right now.
I'm in a hurry.
Oh, okay.
He's like, you want a day to think about it? No, now.
I need a new car right this minute.
How much? How much? Your car plus $700 and deal. I think the thing he said is like, first time I've ever been, first time the customer's ever pressured the sales.
She goes to argue with him and he's like, do you want a day to think about it? And she goes, no, it's a deal. Like she quite literally makes herself so suspicious in those moments. Like, I feel like it would have been less suspicious if she just agreed to it in the first place instead of pausing.
Probably.
And the whole time the cop's watching her ditch her car.
Yeah.
And he's not saying or doing anything.
She had the papers.
She had the papers.
But it wasn't a stolen car. Like, nobody knew she stole the money at this point. Like,
yeah.
She's not found out yet. She needed to just get to where she was going. And
she let her panic make her more suspicious.
And that's why I'm sitting there the whole time this is going on, just like pulling hairs out of my head. Because I'm so nervous for this girl to get herself caught for something no one knows she's done yet.
Also, I'm kind of confused because like she wants to go to a private island, obviously, because get away from everything, just go to Guatemala or Puerto Rico or something, just hang out. But she is planning on swapping out this car. Even back then you had to get your plates, right? So like something's gonna be tracking her,
right?
Well, like the thing that I'm thinking, I'm like, she never addresses it. What about Sam? Sam Loomis seems like
going.
That's where she was headed.
That's where she was headed.
Okay, I missed that bit. That bit.
She was going to Sam.
That's why the
Sam,
motel.
hey, I stole $40,000. Let's move to an island.
Huh?
That's why the motel is 15 miles outside of the town he was in.
That's right.
By the way, just setting this up for the future, Sam is the most bitch-made badass I've ever seen in my life.
I love him. No, and I know this is taking us back, but a lot of my notes at the beginning are like, wow, this is randomly sexy. Like I wasn't expecting basically sex in the first couple minutes of Psycho. The toilet being flushed was supposed to be super like outrageous and not okay, and the reason it got an R rating, but like There's sex. There's basically sex immediately when the movie opens up.
No, let's clarify. Making love.
All right. Okay. All right.
But, I mean,
you're right.
Maybe I'm not good with
There's
my
boobies.
Granted, this is a movie, so the expectations and rules for movies were different, but this is a time where on television it was considered a scandal to show a man and his wife sharing a bed.
Yeah.
So it is wild that a toilet flush had such a fuss thrown up about it when, she literally gets stabbed to death immediately after.
Well, and the movie opens up with this lady quite literally having an affair, like in her underwear. Like she is quite literally just wearing a bra.
Yeah.
I have boobies written all over these notes.
No, I guess that is something interesting. Is that like those depictions aren't usually a problem in filmmaking. Now I'm thinking about. Let's say go back to, you guys ever watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers?
No.
Great movie.
Well, the play.
I mean, it's one of the earliest films I can think of. That's not. I don't know if it's. I think it might be younger actually. But the point being, a lot of these older films don't seem to have a problem with like women in the nightgowns just kind of hanging around. There's nothing about that really affects the rating. It's kind of interesting.
But a toilet flushing.
Now that's just ridiculous. That's
too
terrible.
far.
How could you reference bodily function like that?
It's terrible.
It's disgusting.
Who does that?
God.
But once she leaves the dealership, like there's this really like underrated scene in my brain where she's just driving, like, and her facial expressions are telling the story that she's like, I'm getting away with it. Meanwhile, you hear instead of just cutting to a bunch of scenes of people talking about her going and talking about what she did and figuring out how to deal with it, you just get voiceovers over her driving of like people discussing, where's my money? Where's the money? Like, oh, she was supposed to be there at this time. And you get the sense that like she's I'm freezing.
Like coming to terms with like what she's doing and growing confident.
Just about to get confident. Too bad with what happens probably in like 2 hours after this moment. Because then she pulls up it's raining like hell. She can't really keep driving and she pulls up to Bates Motel. And that's where we finally meet our friend Norman.
Yeah. First of all, love him. Like not him as a person, but
his performance is great.
His performance is one of the best ever, and I mean I studied deep on it back during my time in collage. Because dude, his abilities were so beyond what was expected of a film actor, especially for that time. He was trying.
he was going so hard. And can I mention he was so cute. Like he shows up, and my first note is, why is he cute? Like,
because that's how he lures the men.
He's supposed to be a psycho.
Yes.
Well, I feel like that lasts for all about his first 5 minutes on screen. Because I think you start seeing the cracks a lot earlier than you really think.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Even just because like maybe it's my fault because I knew the movie, but for me when he's asking her for to eat food with him, it was creepy to me.
No,
oh yeah,
like,
it was so creepy that I wrote sus.
Like, but yeah, he does just come on as kind of a lonely, awkward, like goofy dude.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The crazies are friendly. That's the important aspect. Like that's the thing.
The lesson.
Hitchcock did put a lot of work and effort into figuring out how exactly to portray someone who is actually experiencing some form of, in this case, I guess, multiple personality disorder / psychosis.
Yeah,
because it's very real. It's very much what you would experience.
I definitely say it's just a endless episode of psychosis, hence the name.
Yeah,
psychosis.
Yeah.
Well, and also, just because I'm one of those people, and I actually have been involved in FNAF lore for a very long time.
What a take long to go down that road.
So when she comes into the hotel and goes to get a room, she signs into the registry, And the last person was there. What's the 4th month of the year?
April.
Thanks,
April.
James.
Thank you. That's really important. So the last person was there April 18th. And throughout the film, we hear him lie about how many people have been stopping by and if he uses the registry or if he doesn't use the registry. So I don't know. I'm glad I took note of that because it's been a long time because this takes place in December. It's basically almost been a year since there's been somebody at that motel.
Which
Mhm.
fills in what the relevance is for showing you the date.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to like analyze further and deeper into Norman's character.
Yeah.
Because you see throughout the movie, sometimes he's immediately whipping out the registry.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's like, oh, that's not necessary.
Well, it's after he feels he's got caught,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. But
We will
anyway,
get to.
We did clarify that the date is important. Now to figure out why they listed the time.
Still can't figure that one out. I'm still lost. Time is so weird in this movie too. People go to do something and then they magically appear right next to the main character 2 seconds later. I took note of that actually at the car dealership. He's like, all right, well, I'll go figure this out. I'll go check your papers and stuff. And or no, it's when he goes, he says his mechanic's gonna check the car.
Yeah.
And he goes into the building and then she walks over and gets a newspaper and suddenly he is outside of he drove the car into the building. He's outside of the building. The car is good. And it's already been checked. It has been less than a minute. Like time just kind of is a little bit wonky in this film.
Yeah, he speeds up a lot of things, cuts a lot of corners, which is funny since he also will give you painstakingly detailed and very much extended scenes of interesting things.
Yeah.
His character is inconsistent by design is what like kind of
Yeah.
I've noticed throughout the movie. On one hand, the famous line, he just looks like he couldn't even hurt a fly. But like you see in his eyes on several occasions, his facial expressions throughout the whole movie, like from beginning to end, are constantly shifting. He never really rests on many readable faces. It's always one extreme to the other, or just kind of a deadpan smolder.
Well, and you want to know what else I noticed? So, he obviously, like we said, he invites her to get dinner with him or eat dinner with him up at the house, and then he fights with his mother about it. And when he comes back down with the dinner tray, he's standing in front of this window, and the expression that's being made by the reflection in the window is different than the expression he has on his face. I don't know how. I don't know if I forget his name, but the actor like had control of that side of his face or something.
With how well he controlled his facial expressions and got emotions across throughout the movie, I would not be surprised if he had an ability to make two facial expressions on each side of his face.
Because the side that's him, not the reflection, is smiling and having a conversation. The other side has it was almost like a smirk kind of, but the eyes were more angry. I was like kind of blown away because I mean that's not an effect I feel like you can pull, other than if you have an actor as great as that can do half facial expressions. I don't know.
Because very well could have just been, some rudimentary VFX just to get a different shot of him in the mirror, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It looked too
I'd have
clean.
to look into the behind the scenes, which
Me
is not
too.
what this show's really about. So it's more about just kind of raw reaction and, theorizing.
I love theorizing.
So allow me. It's all possible.
It is all possible. That's the fun part. We could be dead wrong, or we could be spot on.
Yeah,
We could be dead.
I really could have just seen
We could be
something.
dead.
Oh. But yeah, the next scene. So when they go to eat dinner, he pulls her into the parlor off of the office,
Which is the scariest room in the entire movie.
terrifying, filled with taxidermied birds.
And the birds are obviously very symbolic.
Mhm.
To him, I think it's a way. I think they symbolize women.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Because especially
He literally
comparison
compares her to a bird almost immediately.
and a nickname for a woman can often be a bird.
A bird.
Mhm.
And this room, I think the last thing you want to happen to you is you get pulled into a room full of taxidermied birds, and then the creepy guy goes, "Oh, you eat like a bird."
Also, in a room
That he stuffed himself. Let's make that clear.
and in a room that he said he had sandwiches. I didn't see no freaking sandwiches. I saw bread and butter. That's not sandwiches.
Yeah, he did. He said they were sandwiches. She was just eating a plain piece of bread. Like,
You know what? No, listen. If you grew up in the conditions like I did, where it's like semi ghetto, like you have to live that way. That butter and butter on bread, just not even toasted, that goes hard. Okay, I understand her plight. Okay.
I mean, would you say it's more his plight? He's like, I got some sandwiches.
I mean, no, I guess
sandwich?
he probably should have brought actual sandwich supplies, but you know,
I mean, it probably hurt the Riz factor on his end.
True.
Which one of my notes is just negative Riz on the taxidermy. Because he just goes on and on about how much he loves taxidermy on his birds. And you can tell it's making her uncomfortable how much he likes it. She's really nice about it.
she's very
every man
nice
needs a
about
hobby.
it.
Yeah, every man needs a hobby, I suppose. And then he does the worst thing ever, which is say, "Oh, it's more than a hobby."
A hobby is only supposed to take up a portion. This is my entire life.
I mean, yeah, immediately I wrote after that, bro is tripling down.
He does eventually move on, and somehow she gets comfortable. That's what I don't understand. I don't think he was that comfortable. Like, he wasn't coming off in a way that I would have been like, I'm relaxed now. Yeah.
No, I trust me. Have you guys ever stayed at a really weird motel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me your story first.
I went to a music festival.
Whoa.
And me and the friend I went with wanted just the cheapest motel we could find.
Great idea.
So we went to a Wyndham Super 8. And it was in a suspect part of Columbus. And all I remember is I'm sitting in the truck waiting for him to check in, and then we walk into our we drive over to our room. We have to go down this hallway, and this hallway just has buzzing lights, and like they're flickering, and like some interesting looking people are walking down the hallway past us, and we're like, it's just a night. Then we open the door, and there's this ungodly high-pitched hum coming from the toilet.
Wild.
And we were like trying to figure out how to get rid of the sound, because we were like, how the hell are we gonna sleep? So I was like, I got an idea. So I flushed the toilet. Controversial, I know. And it got worse.
Oh gosh.
So our plan was, we were like, well, we don't got to pay the water bill. The TV didn't work, by the way.
Great.
That would be plan A. We don't pay the water bill. This is probably not a very nice thing to do. We turned the shower on overnight to drown out the buzz.
Oh no.
I mean, nothing happened. But that's what we did. I know I kind of lead it in like that was like going to lead to something.
Oh, I thought maybe because my shower makes like a high pitched noise sometimes.
Oh no!
So I thought maybe
it actually
would have gotten
it
worse.
half worked, but it kind of you could still hear it under the shower, like slightly. Just you hear the water flowing, but then you hear. And then I'm like, okay, this is good enough. So we somehow didn't like take a peek at the beds
Yeah.
When I tell you, they straight up had the cheapest like couch pillows as pillows. Like, you know, those things that like you're at your friend's house and you're like, this is all I got. And they hand you that.
Yeah.
That's what they had for pillows.
How comparable were they to the couch pillows that I had in my room back in my old house that were like the weird fabric that was like bumped? Yeah, it was tan. Those tan pillows.
I feel like they were like that kind of wickery kinda.
Yeah.
They were a lot like that without the wickery part. And then I proceeded to have the worst sleep of my life. But it was all made better when we went to get the continental breakfast, and the and the owner of the hotel came down and came in. She was Indian, and she just like, she didn't speak English, but she had owner on her like name tag, and she just was like, "How food?" It was literally like Hostess mini muffins, and I'm like, really good. I was so happy. So that helped the experience.
Your story is so much better than mine. It's
that's as bad as it gets for me.
Yeah, no, mine was so traveling cross country from Texas to Ohio.
Oh boy.
Had to stop somewhere because I could only stay conscious for so long. And we stopped at, I think it was just called American Motel.
See, I want to try one of these because the only thing that probably made that one bearable was it was a corporate motel.
Yeah.
I want to stop at one of these like kind of sketchy ones one time.
You don't. I did. See, here's what happened, right? First of all, I told Cheyenne, my wife, to stay in the car. And I also told her where the gun was. And and then I walked in and I was like, "Hi, I'm here to get a room." And there's this nicest, like most pudgy white dude I've ever seen in my life, just happily sitting in his chair, just, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get you your room." And like, he gets me in my room. I paid $110 for it.
Oh my God.
I get my refund. Don't you worry. Because I paid for a non-smoking room. They had smokers' rooms that you were allowed to smoke inside of. I didn't know that existed.
What state was this in?
Probably based on where we were at the time, probably Kentucky.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We walk. I walk into the room because I'm on the phone with her. And I'm like, I'm going to check this place out. I'm just keeping you on the phone so that, you know, if something happens to me, you can come in gung ho. Yeah. And I walk into our room. First of all, the first thing that hits me is there's no way that no one smoked in this room because it just smells like cigarettes. And the bathroom is filthy. It is disgusting. The bed's tattered, terrible, looks awful. It looks like straight up someone died on one of them. Like, it just doesn't look right. I also happened to notice that someone was following me in the hallway. And so I just closed the door calmly and I walk back down and I'm like, "Can I get a refund?" And he's like, Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry about that. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Give me my fucking money back. And so
I am not staying here.
He's like, "Okay, it'll get recharged back to your card in about 1 to 2 days." It did. And then I walk back outside and I happen to notice there are 3 separate guys casing my car.
Oh, good.
And I get back in the car. I'm like, "We're not staying here." And and Cheyenne's like, "Yeah, one of them got really close to the car until he noticed me." And I'm like, "We're going to go to Best Western." And so,
you know, I'm not tired anymore.
Yeah. I got 30 more minutes in me. Yeah, no, point being, she's a maniac. I don't know. I couldn't even stay in there for longer than a second. The fact that she was willing to disrobe and take a shower in this place is astonishing to me.
Oh, we're back to the movie.
Yes.
Oh.
I was like,
what?
I thought Cheyenne stayed in the car.
I heard that she stayed in the car.
I messed up the continuity.
Wait, no, I have a motel story too.
Oh, no.
Motel.
Hotel?
Holiday Inn.
So I have a family of 6, by the way. Woo! I am the oldest of 4 siblings. And we were on the way to Florida, I believe, and we stopped somewhere in Georgia. I will not give the name of this inn. My father.
Sorry, Super 8.
My father is the one who made the plans for accommodations.
It's always
here.
dad. It's always dad.
It was one room for 6 people.
Oh God! It's always dad.
It was with a probably full-size bed, and it was filthy. Filthy. Like, it had yellow walls, and they were I don't think anyone ever dusted in there.
Are you sure they're supposed to be yellow?
Yeah. It goes with the brand. It had a pool. The pool was drained. And filthy. And my siblings and I all looked at each other and we went, all right. So 4 of us slept on the floor. Mom and dad slept in the bed. Apparently the floor was more comfortable.
That makes sense.
My mom somehow took a shower. I don't know how. I was very worried about the car the whole time because my mom owns a Cadillac Escalade, which was new at the time, like 2017. And that's an expensive car.
Yeah.
I was really worried about the car. I didn't sleep well because I was worried about the car and my siblings. There were people walking around all hours of the night, and there was no complimentary breakfast to make it better.
What city was this in?
I don't know. It was somewhere in Georgia.
Georgia. I was just wondering.
It was really creepy. And there was a Holiday Inn not far. Like, I don't know why my mom was like, well, this is where we're staying. Like, you have 6 kids and we can barely stand in this room.
And was this for an extended trip or just for like a pit stop?
It was a pit stop. There was like,
those are always the best hotels.
Yeah.
it was an outlet mall. Like, we were stopping at an outlet mall real quick, and then we came back to go to bed, and yeah, it was horrible. We all and the air conditioning in the car went out. When we got yeah, this is a
we're
great
just slandering brands right now.
Yeah.
That's why
It's not slander if it's true.
True.
Well,
Your AC went out and my Super 8 experience was not very super.
I almost died.
Hey, but at least none of us did, like Marion Crane. Because
unfortunate.
in the next scene of the movie is the very famous scene.
Segue, by the way.
Yes, thank you. She checks into room 1, which is right next to the office, which he frames as a way to keep her more comfortable because he's right there. Even though I assume he doesn't stay in the office all night. But, that doesn't really matter, all things considered, because it's revealed that he's got something behind one of the paintings in the parlor. It's a hole, and he's just he's watching her change.
Yeah.
Peeping on a woman while she changes. Cool. Flushing a toilet.
No.
How could you do this?
That makes no sense to me.
And let me mention, this is when the Blu-ray started to glitch.
Oh my god! Hold on. I forgot. My segue was so good. I meant to say this. The most intense distortion of the Blu-ray happened right when he says, "We all go a little mad sometimes," and then his face just like twists and contorts in the most horrifying way possible.
And can I mention, because I haven't seen this movie before, I knew that line was from this movie. I just didn't know he was about to say it. So he goes, it's something about her being mad. I go,
she just goes a little mad sometimes.
And then I go, oh, we all go a little mad sometimes. And then he just says it. I was like, oh, how come I beat into the line?
Completely on accident.
Completely. And then he turns into something out of an analog horror movie. It was actually adding to the creep factor. It was looking like, Mandela catalog for a second.
It was funny at first. It got really, really annoying soon after. We got through the shower scene, which it's so famous that
Mhm.
it's hard to really talk about it, but
Well-
it's so brilliant that we have to.
Yeah, and we have to go back to the fact that so Austin and I are standing or we're all sitting there watching it, and I go, oh yeah, this scene, I think about it every time I make chocolate milk. And James goes, did they use chocolate milk for the blood?
Yes and no.
Because you have to understand, not knowing that fun fact, I was so confused. I was like, you think about shower murder when you make chocolate milk?
Every time, man.
And so yeah, they used chocolate syrup for the blood for this scene.
Fun fact.
Because it makes so like that's why probably they'll never put this movie in color.
Probably.
Yeah,
Um,
I bet a lot of things wouldn't work. Because I feel like
the
even
shadows and the lighting are so good
they're
that
so good.
Well, that's the thing. Black and white films, there's a reason why they look better in black and white because they're designed to be in black and white. There's been multiple times you'll have colorized things. And, aside from war footage, which I'm cool with 100%, you'll like put a movie in color and you'll realize someone is wearing a color blouse or something that makes no sense and they shouldn't be wearing that color. But they are because it makes sense in black and white.
Right, because it helps with the contrast.
Yeah.
And can I mention the contrast of her to the white tile
Mm-hmm.
of this shower is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Like she looks like they must have contoured the hell out of that woman because I can see every bone basically. Like her collarbone is contoured crazy. I snapped. Sorry, I had to.
it sounded like your like collarbone snapped just
Yeah.
now. Like
Her collarbone just
a loud pop. Her collarbone. I was just trying to accentuate my collarbone like Janet Leigh.
and straight up, they just kill a leading lady.
Yes, this is a big deal. And it would inspire Scream. They, Scream, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, put Drew Barrymore all over the marketing, all over the trailers, and killed her in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
confused me
This
a
was
lot when I watched Scream.
Janet Leigh was in the movie a lot longer than 5 minutes, but she still was the leading lady, the big name, the big draw, and she dies halfway through.
Yep.
Her story never really gets finished. It's abruptly ended, and honestly, I think that adds to the impact. Just like real murder, it's abrupt and cold. And doesn't matter what your plans were, they're now over.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there because I've seen the scene, but I haven't seen past where she gets stabbed in the shower. So I'm sitting there being like, is she going to reach for something? And she reaches for the thing and it falls. And I was like, oh, okay. Is she going to get up? And then she just slumps over
She's dead.
and she's dead.
Yep.
And there's still 40 minutes left.
I was like, wait, how do we get to the rest of the movie?
Which I'm willing to bet they must have put something in her eyes so that she could keep her eyes open and not move them at all.
Yeah.
Because that was very convincing death.
Yes. And the eye shot, the shot just starts real close up to our eye, just pans out on the crime scene, is a great lead in to what I think is one of the more underrated parts of this movie, the very long and uncomfortable cleanup sequence. Because you see every step of him cleaning up this murder.
And it's also the birth of Sam Raimi's directorial choices.
We're going to have 2 Sam Raimi trains of thought throughout this show, whenever he's brought up. I think he's a visionary.
And so
We'll watch Evil Dead and you'll change your tune a little bit.
Watch Evil Dead.
I do like
Multiverse
Sam
of
Raimi.
Madness. He ruined Marvel. Shut up.
We can argue about that later.
Ooh.
This is not a Marvel podcast, and I refuse to let that happen.
Does Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness count as a horror movie?
No.
No, that is not even close to a horror movie.
It may have horror elements.
A lot of
But
them.
the fact that they called it like
Psychological
first-
horror.
no, it's
They
not a
did.
horror movie. No, I mean, yeah, I'm saying it's not.
It does have a lot of horror elements.
Elements. That's different.
That's fair.
Would you call Halo a horror game?
It has elements. Not
Would
these
you-
days.
Would you call it a horror game?
No.
Exactly. Moving on. We're not going to go down the Marvel rabbit hole.
Now available on
I-
Spotify.
All right, back to cleanup.
Viscera cleanup detail. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 10 minutes of just watching him go through all the motions from the obnoxiously long cleanup that made me uncomfortable. It's just, you see every step,
Every step.
getting the mop bucket, putting the mop
which I
in
wrote-
the bucket,
To which I wrote, yes, a mop.
getting out plastic to wrap her in, putting her in the plastic, rolling her up, getting her,
Did it skip him putting her in the car?
I
No.
think so.
I think it did. I didn't see that.
I thought
It's
I saw her.
implied.
I thought I saw him throw her into the trunk.
Yeah,
no,
he did.
threw.
Yeah, he threw
When?
her into the
He
trunk.
put her in the trunk.
And whenever he backed up the car, he walked out the door carrying her, and he literally threw her into the trunk.
I think I wrote something down when he backed up
But yeah,
the car.
you see her throw her in the trunk. You see him daintily drive out to the marsh behind the inn, and you see the car very slowly sink, and then it stops,
Oh no!
and then he's sitting there shitting his pants.
I was shitting my pants as well.
Yeah, these two are like, oh no. And I'm like, what do you mean? Don't you want him to get caught?
No.
But his goals, man. My main character is dead now. I have to latch on to somebody else.
Fair.
And he's standing right there.
He's our new main character for like the next 20-ish minutes, And then the car finally sinks and he smiles.
And I
Oh,
let
the
out a
smile.
loud sigh of relief. I was like, oh, thank God.
That smile though set me right back on track, and I was like, "Oh, right."
Yeah,
But-
that was kind of creepy.
With the death of Marion Crane, we finally get to the misadventures of Sam Loomis and Marion Crane's sister, which I believe her name was Lila.
It was
Lila?
Lila.
Lilo.
Stitch?
So we kind of go back to the original kind of plot of the movie. Where's this $40,000 at?
Which I really hadn't thought about that much at this point.
Well, because it's the root of how Norman's gonna get found out.
Right.
Because I don't think he knew.
No, he didn't even know because she wrapped up the money in that newspaper.
Yes.
And he never saw it.
So this is it's a crime of passion.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't know that the person he decided to kill is ultimately what's going to get him caught, because he doesn't know how much heat is currently on this woman.
Let's take it back though, because when we saw her get killed, it looked like a woman.
Yes, the killer is
His mother.
yes, it's mom.
It's his mom?
It's mother.
It's mother.
It's mother.
Mama.
Did we talk about mom? We
Not
didn't
really.
talk
We
about mom.
skipped over mom, kind of. Yeah.
Well-
Other than I mentioned her for a second.
Well, yeah. So Norman won't shut up about his mom throughout the entire movie.
He loves his
he is
mother.
a mother's
She's a
the only
nice
friend
lady.
that a boy needs, is what he said.
Yep.
Mama's boy.
He's a complete mama's boy. I believe probably the first of many in the horror genre. There's a lot of mama's boys.
Mhm.
Jason.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy.
Yeah.
But there are others. But he is what I would call the OG.
Good old Norman.
And that informs most of his motivations. You hear him arguing with his mother about Marion being in the hotel. Like,
Or being up at the house for dinner.
oh yeah. So you get a
She's
clear
only
indication
two.
that mother does not like Marion. And of course, having to clean up after your mother's stabbing attack isn't, maybe it's not fun, but you probably shouldn't smile about it. Maybe that means something.
He's an accomplice.
Oh my goodness. He cleaned up the murder scene. Do you think he's an accomplice?
Yeah, because we should mention his mother left the room, ran out, and you can hear when he or she gets back to the house, he goes, "Mother, what is this blood all over you?" And he runs to the motel to
Now
figure out
hold
what
on
happened.
now. I know my mother would do this sometimes. I should probably go check on the lady that just showed up.
But yeah, sorry for forgetting a very important plot
Very,
element.
very important.
A almost essential plot element of the story. But
Very
we like to have
essential.
fun here, so we got a little sidetracked. But yeah, we get back to the $40,000, and the rich man who lost the $40,000. He was funny, by the way.
Yeah, we totally skipped over that, and I was gonna make us go back because that man was hilarious. He was so creepy, but he was hilarious. I actually
Thirsta-Rooney.
Thirsta-Rooney, yeah. It was so funny.
But you know, such is the way of a podcast in chronological order. Sometimes it's just gonna happen. We're gonna skip over things.
We gotta go back.
We can go back when we do final wrap-up thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, the money
We're learning
and
as
the
we
sister
go. Marnie.
and the man she was having an affair with,
So we're introduced to three new protagonists, essentially.
basically.
You have Sam Loomis, who we've met before. We have Marion's sister, Lila. And we have the PI, whose last name was hard to pronounce, and I already forgot. So I'm just going to call him the PI. And they, the PI is just like, I'm going to check every hotel in the region, which is like, sure, that's a good move and a little convenient, but
And I also wanted to mention Sam, who's the person Marion was having an affair with at the beginning of the movie. When we come into his shop, we find that he is writing a letter that I believe was to his wife to divorce her. So that man was about to make some big moves.
well, they were already divorced because he said he was paying her alimony already.
Yeah.
No, he said he was going to pay her alimony.
But he said ex-wife.
He was talking in the future. That's why Marion would be licking his alimony stamps. He hasn't divorced his wife yet. It's an affair that they're having.
We will go back and review later.
Let's get a replay on that.
Either way, he's writing a letter to his
Women know these things.
either current wife or ex-wife, one or the other.
Inconsequential.
Maybe it's just all the web of lies and deception. Maybe he told her they were already divorced.
Whoa.
But they weren't actually already divorced. I don't know.
Oh my god.
We're theorizing. We like that fun here. Ashton's nodding her head. No. Well, we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to go back.
We're going to have to.
We have to go right back upstairs and press play on the first scene of the movie. But yeah. So the PI, he's going around all the hotels. He's checking in with everybody. And, you know, that's when he finally gets to Bates Motel. And Norman just cracks under pressure so
Norman
easily.
Is cracking.
He's just like, oh, I've never seen her in my life. Oh, yeah.
Like he's shivering.
Well, can I look at your registry? Oh, well, I mean, I haven't seen anyone in like 7 months. I thought you said 4. I mean, I haven't seen anybody in like
The last 2 weeks.
the last 2 weeks.
Except there was a couple here last week, and they.
Yeah, it's like, let me see your registry. And bro does some PI stuff and is like, yep, this is the fake name. This is her handwriting. She was here. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, it was raining, so her hair was wet. And this isn't a great
this
picture.
Isn't a good picture. Like, it doesn't really look like her.
Oh, yeah, she was here. She just slept and then left. And we might have had sandwiches.
Yeah, when she was standing.
She was
back
sitting
there.
Yeah, she was standing. Was she sitting or was she standing? Back there. She was standing.
Where's back there?
Oh, the parlor.
The parlor.
See, that's the part where I had to get up and walk out for a second, so I missed all of that good stuff.
It was really good. Norman
is cracking.
Austin's missing a chunk of this movie because he had to walk out for stuff.
A meeting.
It's a meeting. The way I said it made it sound like it was like bad. It was just a
to
meeting.
step out for some stuff.
Yeah, he had some personal problems.
Drugs.
Yeah.
It was
Austin's
so
cat.
anxiety inducing.
Austin's
that he
cat's
did need
addicted to
drugs.
catnip. My God. Had to go visit the cat in rehab. But the thing is, like, I think this whole scene with the PI, going back to his facial expressions, was the best examples of his facial expressions just going all over the place.
They were everywhere.
And it's like, it's just unsettling. Every time he speaks, I'm like, ugh.
I was scared for him. I don't know why I latched on to Norman so hard. Probably because he's cute. Sorry, James. I'm just stressed because he can't even keep his lies straight. at all. And my note here is, dude, white out the registry at least. Like, if there's any way to tell if someone was at your motel, it's gonna be the registry.
I think he really just didn't feel like anyone would look there for her.
Well, no one's been there. And considering how long ago the last person was there.
But yeah, so Norman fumbles the bag, makes himself look very suspicious, and the PI is just like calls them a dynamic duo.
Before we get to there, he finally does convince the PI to leave, but it was only after he said he'd give him a tour of the place. And he mentions his mother, and that's what makes the PI really suspicious. Can I talk to your mother? No, she's sick. Well, I need a warrant to talk to your mother. Yes, you're gonna need a warrant. And that's when the PI finally leaves to make the phone call. And as the PI is pulling out, that is the creepiest smile I saw in the whole film.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
Oh, yeah.
He watches him leave, and that man thinks he's won.
Well, because like his biggest fumble in words was saying, "Oh, there's no one in the house," when the PI already saw his mother in the window, and so he already is messed up. And so the PI, calls the dynamic duo back at home. He's like, "I'm gonna take another look. If I don't call you in an hour."
Well, he doesn't.
He says, "I'm going to call you back in an hour."
He says, "I'll be back in an hour." He says he's going to come back and see them in an hour because he wants to talk to the mother, because he thinks the mother has seen Marion. Because he does. Norman says something along the lines of his mother didn't like her, or like might have checked up on her or something, and that sends this PI. His ears are ringing. He's like, "This is a lead. This is a lead I have to follow."
Then he follow it. He does, because he goes back and he decides, "I'm just gonna walk into this place."
And in comes probably this shot of this man walking up the stairs is so gorgeous.
The house is gorgeous.
The house is gorgeous, and I actually noted as well. They must have either never tore down this set or rebuilt this set for that Bates Motel show, because it is the same exact house, like to every specification.
It is the same building.
Okay, good.
They used it again in Psycho 2
and 3.
And 3, I didn't know about that.
And
and
the third one.
And most importantly,
I think there's a fourth one too.
There's a really
98?
interesting.
Did they use it in 98?
There's a really interesting shot that I saw that was really interesting. That in Psycho 1 there was a crane that they used. It was like early technology for films at the time, but it was a crane that they used to look into one of the windows of the building. And then there was a shot of Psycho 2 from the 80s. And it was the exact same setup, but a modern crane. And it was so cool to compare and contrast.
But this shot of this man walking up the stairs is fantastic.
Yes. It is gorgeous. I know it. Even though I didn't see the scene, I know it. It's really good. It's iconic.
It's very good.
And then he
So then the mother, so he's looking for the mother, right? And he gets to the top of the stairs and he turns to go to a different room, I believe. That's to his right. And the mother comes running out of her room with a knife once again and murders this man.
No!
And he falls back down the stairs in what is another amazing shot.
Like, I love it. I love that shot. His just faces of horror while he's just been slashed across the face. I could see someone reading that scene that shot is corny, but I think it's like wonderful.
And
it's lovely.
There's something about it. Like I'm just like, how'd you do that with that camera? Oh, how'd you do that? Like nowadays we have like all these cameras set up, to do shots like that with
all these
lines
crazy rigs
they zip on and like crazy rigs to make that possible. that camera was extremely steady, going all the way down the stairs and following straight on this man's face. It's not like it was zooming like as he was walking up the stairs. That shot was gorgeous, but it wasn't, I don't know, as impressive to my brain.
Yeah. But that shot kind of spells the end for our PI, and also in essence starts to spell the end for Norman and his mom, because we then cut to I didn't catch the relationship with that old couple, and
so that is
Lila
the sheriff.
That's the sheriff.
That's the sheriff and his wife.
Okay.
Because Lila is concerned about the PI. So we cut back to Lila and Sam, and Lila's like, he hasn't come back yet. I gotta go to the motel and figure out what happened, and Sam won't let her go. Sam checks out the place. He cases it real quick. But he sees Mother in the window, but nobody else is there, so he leaves. And he and Lila go to the sheriff in the middle of the night, who is obviously annoyed with them.
Oh, yeah. But that's where we get our first little tease of the truth of this
business
movie.
10 years ago.
The sheriff reveals that Mrs. Bates is dead.
This is when I leaned in from the kitchen and said, huh?
That's all you get.
No, it was a murder-suicide.
It was a framed as a murder-suicide.
She had the guy she was seeing, she laced his drink with poison and then killed herself.
Dang.
And Norman saw it.
Norman is the one who found them
their
in their
bodies
bed.
In the bed.
To which his wife makes it's just super funny. She goes, in bed. It makes the most suggestive eyes. Like, she was like, this is gossip, okay, guys, and this is where I shine.
The sheriff's wife is like the sweetest old lady I've ever seen.
She is so excited to gossip about this, though.
I love my notes just say bump bump bump. But we're kind of left to stew on that, and so are the characters, and they're like, what does this mean? Well, like, then who's the woman in the house if she's buried? And
we cut back
to Norman,
who does this gay little walk up the stairs.
He's like straight strutting up the stairs, like, mother, we have to go to the fruit cellar. And she's like, oh, am I a fruit? Like,
she says exactly. So I make a joke about the gay little walk up the stairs, and then 2 seconds later, this woman goes, so you think I'm fruity, huh?
Gosh.
But then we kind of get to my first hell yeah moment, and that's just them saying, we're gonna go. That's Lila and Sam just like, we're gonna just go figure it out. And I just wrote, the mission begins. Hell yeah. And Norman, he's putting mom in the fruit cellar,
which can I was like, oh, there is an old woman there. Like, because
that's the first time you see Norman and the old woman on the screen at the same time.
I mean, to be clear, very much an old woman, very old, very old.
Much an old woman.
Yeah,
he carries her down the stairs. So I was like, wait, do I know what happens in this movie?
I will say I had suspicions of the twist way back. I had suspicions, nothing confirmed, obviously, but I had a feeling that there was something up with the fact that we never saw the mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there might be something up with that. Yeah,
there's something up. We've just discovered that mom is dead? Question mark. But
there seems to be an old lady in this house.
And our dynamic duo arrive, and this is where the tension for me really ramps up, because they're going just full on stealth mode. They're like, oh, we're just a couple trying to find a place to stay, and Norman, I feel like, is immediately suspicious of
Very
them.
much immediately suspicious because Lila looks just like her sister. And
It's kind of freaky. I thought maybe they just had Janet Leigh come back into the movie
no,
and
and
be like, I'm a different person.
it was, what was the name? It was Vera. I don't know.
We should have a IMDb page pulled up at all times.
Yes.
That is
Lesson to learn.
100%. So it's Vera Miles.
Vera Miles.
Who I felt like I had seen somewhere before, which is why I knew it was a different person. But we should mention at the top of the scene, Norman looks out the window and sees her. And I could tell there was a little bit of shock. He was like, am I seeing a ghost right now? Because she looks so much like her sister.
And, Norman just kind of takes them to their room, and they're not doing a great job of being not suspicious either. They're very weirdly aggressive. But they go to the room.
They don't have bags.
They hatch up a plan. They hatch up a little plan. Sam's like, I'll go just distract Norman, and you just go find the old lady and you talk to her. And when they put this into action, I just was finding myself kind of giggling at how aggressive Sam is being. He's like, oh, I'm doing all the talking and you're not talking back to me. I thought someone as lonely as you. Like,
yeah, it's like he's egging him on. I'm like, aren't you just supposed to be distracting him? If you make him angry, he's going to go into that house.
And then he's like, and then he just starts making accusations like, oh, I bet you want to get out of here. I bet $40,000 would help you open a new hotel.
And we should clarify, this is because Sam's pretty sure he killed Marion for the money so he can go have his own hotel and get away from his mother.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good theory.
That is a good theory. That's probably the theory I would conclude as well if I were him.
So I think Sam, in his passion and, love for Marion, could not contain himself. So he just starts going off the rails, basically corners Norman. Meanwhile, Lila is in the house.
Yeah, she's checking out the house. She goes into the mother's room and there's this great jump scare with the mirrors, which I thought was really great.
Oh, it's really good. I also kind of got a kick out of the mattress. It looks like Mrs. Bates has a Tempur-Pedic. Like her imprint is still just in the mattress. But she's not finding anything. And as she's heading down the stairs is when Sam
pause. First, she goes and finds Norman's bedroom before she goes down the stairs.
Norman's bedroom.
And he's been living in his childhood bedroom with all of his toys and sleeping in a bed that is definitely not big enough for a man that tall. And she finds what I think has to be his diary because it's an unlabeled book, and she opens it and she's reading something and she's just shocked. We don't ever figure out what that is.
We don't get to see it, unfortunately. But meanwhile, Sam is completely losing control. Because he's just straight up basically where is she, huh? And then Norman out of opportunity just is like, wait, where's the woman you came with? And immediately comes to the conclusion that, oh, she's in the house, and smacks him in the back of the head with a candle or something.
In a way that would never take out a man.
It's like the weakest
Sam.
That is a big man. I mean, it didn't
big.
take him out for that long, to be fair.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Norman, honey.
And honestly, one of the scariest shots in the movie, in my opinion, is when she looks out the window and you just see Norman schmoving.
You've never seen
hill.
him move that fast the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
He is. I don't know what his plan was when he got in, because the thing is, once he gets in, he looks upstairs and immediately goes upstairs while she's hiding on the basement stairs.
In the greatest hiding spot known to man.
Clearly completely out of sight. She definitely isn't just poking her head out from the stairs where he would just have to do this.
Fair, have we seen any of those grates before? I mean, everyone when they come into the house looks directly up those stairs. They've never looked around that corner. And if Norman's assuming she's looking for his mother, who everyone's seen in that upstairs window,
I understand that, but my brain also goes to he knows where his mother is. You'd think the first place he'd check to make sure she didn't find her already.
Especially if he's protecting her.
Well, let's let's continue with what happens next, and then I'll give you what I think.
Well, he goes upstairs. She meanders down the stairs, and she sees an old woman sitting in a chair, just facing the wall. And, she slowly approaches.
Mhm.
Mrs. Bates turns her around, and she's dead.
Oh,
she is
no.
a straight up corpse.
She's a mummified corpse
like
too.
straight up has been dead for a very long time.
There's no more eyes in that skull.
And then the score starts going crazy, brings back the old, as Austin serenaded us with,
Thank you.
shower scene theme.
Mhm.
And bada boom, there's the real mother, Norman in drag.
Norman dressed up as his mother, which is what he did when he found her not upstairs. He went
up there to change.
He went up there and he didn't really change. He threw on like a nightgown and he put a wig on.
Which I guess is just what he
and
does.
grabbed a knife and ran downstairs because he was like, oh, she found mother.
And it's this real scary moment. Your new leading lady is now cornered by Norman.
With a very good horror scream, might I add.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
She hits the light with her hand and screams.
The light going around while he's getting in there is great. It's sort of like the modern day. It's like the old fashioned take on what we would do in the modern day, which is like strobing / flickering.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
But then our buddy Sam, he saves the day.
Yeah.
He saves the day.
Sam.
He clearly was not taken out for very long by that weak ass hit with a can. I think it was a candle.
My guess is he wasn't taken out. I think it hurt. And so he like
doubled down for
doubled down.
My brain hurts. I can't think on anything except taking him down.
And then he was like, oh God, I gotta move.
And Norman's just apprehended. And I won't lie, the next scene, that shrink was so preachy.
So preachy.
He's like, oh, well, it's his mother that killed your sister. And his mother takes over. He just basically explains the whole pathology of Norman.
Yeah, like the split personality kind of thing.
But the way he does it, I just am thinking like, this is not what you tell the family of his victims.
Right?
Like, you don't just be like, well, Norman, he's just a nice boy. It's his mother's fault.
His mother is the problem.
Because here's the thing. I don't think it's a split personality. I think it is straight up just psychosis.
Yeah.
So you can't use that. Because like they said, are you laying a line of defense right now? It's like,
he says no.
He says no, but he definitely kind of sounds like he is.
And one of the cops just goes, he's a transvestite.
and he's just like, no.
No. He goes, no, he does not derive any sexual pleasure from this.
None of us were like ready for that line. He thought he was doing something. He was like, he's a transvestite.
Yeah, he's just in the back. He's a transvestite.
No.
Not a transvestite.
And, I love that bit. It's so funny. But then the other very famous scene of this movie is immediately after, and that's the ending.
This ending monologue is amazing.
Yes, you hear a monologue from Mother Norman. It's Norman, but Mother's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Basically explaining, oh, here's how I'm gonna get away with it. I'm just gonna sit here. And they'll see how I am. They'll see how nice and kind I am. And then, you get the very famous line, I'm not even going to swat that fly. And they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly. And then the scariest smile ever.
It's terrifying.
And that's the end of the movie. You see the car getting pulled out on the end card. And that's it.
That's it. That's all we get.
And then they revive, Miss Lee, and they get her back into action.
No.
Oh no,
that was her final role.
Oh,
Oh no.
I don't think it was her final. She's actually in Halloween H2O
Wow.
with her daughter, Jamie Lee
Water?
Curtis.
Water?
Did we double check that?
No, that is her mom.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember my notes. I just wrote Jamie Lee's mom for the first page of my notes because I couldn't remember Janet Leigh like as we were going. But yeah, that is Jamie Lee's mom.
Gotcha.
And so that is Psycho.
Yeah. Great movie.
So, now we get to move on to the fun part, and that's opinions.
Opinions.
I'll let you guys just go.
First, he was
Me.
divorced.
He was divorced.
I looked it up. Yeah, I looked it up. Wikipedia. Actually, no, better. Psycho has its own Wikia. I went to Psycho Wikia, and it lists him.
Sounds like a weird, Korean barbecue
I'm
restaurant.
still going to watch this because what I wrote down so many notes on this first scene because I think I forgot I wasn't sitting in a lecture and didn't need to write down every single thing that came to my mind.
That's fair.
So
We like to have fun here.
my whole first page is just notes from this first scene because I was really confused. It seemed like they were talking and it seemed like maybe she was married, and then it's made clear that he's the one who might have been married. I'm rewatching this.
Yeah, all I got is on the Wikia. All it says is Sam Loomis was the divorced owner of Sam Loomis Hardware in Fairvale.
I'm rewatching this.
I was more saying opinions on the movie because we're going to get into ratings here.
Ratings.
Yes.
Ooh.
A fun thing we do here on the show.
A fun thing.
We'll get there. Just kind of final thoughts,
Okay.
final opinions.
I very much enjoyed it, and I kind of knew that I was going to enjoy it because it had Anthony Perkins in it. I'm a big fan of Perkins. It is no surprise to me that in his
Great restaurant.
Yeah, it is no
Kinda gone
surprise to
downhill.
me in his honestly sort of in comparison to other actors comparatively short life. He got 67 movies out. I mean, he's amazing. He's a star-studded actor. He's fantastic. And also Hitchcock. I mean, Hitchcock. I love him. He's a fantastic cinematographer. He's got some great directing. He knows how to make a good story. There's a reason why he's the foundation of most horror tropes. It's just because he's so good at what he does. So yes, Psycho, excellent example of how you want to build tension. Not necessarily do the whole thing that we do with horror movies nowadays. We've refined the process by now, but even while watching that movie, you feel on edge. In fact, I think there's only one other horror movie that's old that gave me a sort of similar feeling, and that's not going to lie to you. The old 1920s Nosferatu.
That's fair.
Recommend.
Haven't seen yet.
It's
Haven't
very
seen that
good.
either.
I've wanted to. It's just never popped up in my situations.
It is a weird watch because it's a silent movie, but it's still good. Great film though. Love it, Psycho. Yes.
Ashton.
I also loved this film. And it's funny because I had really high expectations for it that before watching it, I was like, all right, it's still just a movie. You can't have too high expectations for this. And it still exceeded them. And Hitchcock's amazing. The way he made me question the twist, even though I knew the twist was gonna happen. I don't know how he did that. He buried that lead. He buried that lead like Mother was supposed to be buried.
Dang.
I worked really hard on that one. He also knows how to make a really good cameo, which we skipped the whole scene that he was a cameo in. But
Yeah, he's just kind of standing on the street in the background.
Yeah. He's just kind of I'm Hitchcock.
we were like, wait a minute.
My bottom lip is really big.
Much like my belly.
We were like, is that him? Yeah, that's him. All right.
He's got the silhouette.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved it.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to sound like a critic now.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I still love this movie.
Okay. And
I'm just saying I probably have like the lowest opinion of it at the table.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
It is iconic. It's extremely important.
Mhm.
Cannot be understated how important this movie is.
He's
I
about to
still
say
don't
something
think about it
angry.
a lot, though.
The world does, though.
The world does.
world
Doesn't mean I have to.
does.
I still love this movie. I was like, oh boy, here I am about to say that this is a really good movie that I just don't find myself thinking about that often.
I think that's okay, though.
That is
You're
okay.
allowed to do that.
It's one of those movies that I don't see myself rewatching that much. This is only the second time I've seen it.
Yeah. Plus, movies are generational. The movies that we watch repeatedly today, we're going to get forgotten eventually. Those movies will never be watched again. But the people who make movies are going to remember them. That's what you need. That's what is important.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. I'll never forget this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those. For me, it's one of the many in the category of great movies that I have seen that I don't often find myself revisiting or researching more into. But it is really good, and I'm happy I got to rewatch it because I think my opinion is actually higher now than it was the first time I watched it, which was probably 10 years ago.
It's because you know about the chocolate syrup now, isn't it?
It adds a lot.
That was it. So how many dead moms out of 10 would you give this movie?
How many can I give in total?
I
10.
just said out of 10.
Oh, my bad. I was distracted by the dead moms part. I would probably give this a solid 8 dead moms out of 10 dead moms.
That's crazy because I was going to give it 8 dead moms out of 10 dead
Yeah.
moms.
Oh, hey, we're all at 8 dead moms out of 10 dead moms.
I think if there was more dead mom in this movie,
Well,
I probably could have given it a
I
9.
look at an out of 10 rating the way like you would like school grades.
Mhm.
So for me, an 8 out of 10 is a B.
So it has a B cinema score rating for you.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's probably more of a B plus,
B
if I'm being
plus.
honest.
B for brilliant.
Yes.
A for astounding. C for
Catastrophic.
Degree.
cease.
But yeah, so if
That's how
a
my
movie
family
gets
looks at
a
grades.
8, that's a B. That's good. That's pretty good. That's really good. A 9, that's an A. A 10, a 10, that's 100%, which is rare.
Whoa.
But honestly, for me, the way I rank movies is very curved. You're not going to see me put a movie below 6 very often.
Yeah.
That's just the way I am. I'm actually very forgiving with movies.
You and I are very different.
I see. It'd have to be a really bad movie, like Multiverse of Madness.
But there's
like
a
like a
Here's the
genuinely
thing.
bad movie, not just
Bad for me is unmemorable and boring. Bad as when I can see there's passion behind it, even if the result is terrible, it'll probably get a higher score than Multiverse of Madness.
that is fair.
Mhm.
Because if I can pull another example from Marvel, it didn't feel like anybody loved Thor in Love and Thunder. The movie's trash. Sorry.
I'm staring Austin down right now.
I've not seen any.
That movie.
I've only seen Multiverse of Madness. I don't know anything about any other of the post Endgame not Spider-Man
That's okay.
Marvel movies.
That's all
That's
right.
fine. I'm dropping out anyway. I'm sticking with Spider-Man from now on.
And that's what you should do.
And that's hopefully the only Marvel talk we have on this podcast.
Probably not.
Probably not, unfortunately.
They're unfortunately the gold standard for cinema right now.
But yeah, I feel like we could talk forever, but unfortunately, I do not have forever.
I do.
You do?
I guess.
Do you have forever?
In the palm of your hand.
I gotta pee.
I also have to pee. So, anyway, if you'd like to support us, you can do so on patreon.com/Jumperscape. Okay. Jumperscape. Yeah. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better at reading these off. If you also want to go to Coffee, which is ko.fi/Jumperscape. Is that right? Is that the right link?
That's it.
That's the right link. You can also support us directly there. And if you don't want to support us monetarily, you can support us verbally by joining us on discord.gg/Jumperscape. If you want to chat with me, Austin's there, Ashton's there. She doesn't talk.
Well, I talked to you guys, okay?
By the time you're hearing this, there will be a whole tab to join the Jumperscape horror community.
Yes. There'll be so much. I fully intend on even giving a movie list of all the movies you talk about.
That is going to get really long.
Yes.
Very.
Okay. We're going to do that. So yeah, join today. Talk to us. Hang out. We'd love to see you there. But for now, thank you for joining us in room 237.
Dun, dun.
Boom, boom.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening, stranger. If you enjoyed your time with us, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Jumperscape or join the community at discord.gg/Jumperscape. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.